my god. What is happening? So I started making a video earlier this week where I was talking about my New Year's resolutions and what's coming up on this channel for the next year or so. And one of the resolutions that I had that I thought was going to be a lot bigger than it wound up being was finding a doctor that I can work with this year so I can actually have my fibromyalgia and my IBS managed and treated, and I can have someone that I can talk to about symptoms and stuff. And I expected that to take longer than it did. So what happened was my endocrinologist, who has been okay for the last like 6, 8 months, like renewing my scripts with no issue, started giving me issues about it last month and the month before. And first, it was about my anti-anxiety medications, and I explained that my psychiatrist is private, and the medications are like over 200 euro, and I can't afford that much on a regular basis for my anti-anxiety medications. And so she said that I could just bring her the script from my psychiatrist and she would write it out for me so insurance would cover it, and that was fine. Then I go back to get it filled again, and a new doctor comes out and is like, we can't do this because we're not psychiatrists. And I was like, okay, but I'd already talked to my doctor and she said it was fine. And so I was really anxious about going back again this month to get my anti-anxiety medications filled. And another doctor came out and told me the same thing, and I was like, my doctor said that because my psychiatrist is private, as long as I gave her the script from my psychiatrist, she would refill it. And that doctor was like, okay. And I brought my latest paper from my psychiatrist, and the dose is still wrong. It is still wrong, but it's actually okay for stuff I'll get into in a minute. And so I hand her that paper, and she's like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Then I'll make a note in your chart, and I'll make a note that it's okay to keep filling your anti-anxiety and antidepressants because we have the paper." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And she was like, "But we can't. We will fill your gabapentin today, but we won't fill it ever again unless you bring us proof from a different doctor that you need this." And I explained, like, this is for my fibromyalgia. I've had it since I moved to the US. Like, I can provide you my US medical records, but I haven't been able to find someone who can treat fibromyalgia yet. I've been having trouble with that. And she was like, "Well, we have a rheumatologist upstairs, so you could try that person." I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll try. I have a month to buy myself." That person wasn't available. I actually couldn't find an English speaking rheumatologist who was available, who took statutory insurance until May on Doctor So I Googled for like pain specialists in Germany, and there's this like other sort of like website that is in mostly German, but you can kind of find people who speak English on there looking for basically a GP. Because I was like, if I can find a GP who can write that, because what I eventually figured out is that even though my endocrinologist has been acting as my GP, kind of, in the sense that like she was okay refilling my medications, like she can't actually be a GP for some reason because Germany is weird. So I was looking for a GP and I found one that said pain specialist. I was like, okay. So I went to their website, and they have an English version of their website, which means that people there speak English and have enough English patients that like I could probably have a decent conversation. They had an opening on Thursday, yesterday, for me. So I made an appointment. I was like, okay, I'll try it. This place is an integrative medicine place, and so kind of like Kaiser, where they had like you treat your, like, with medicine, but also with PT and also with acupuncture. That's what they do. So they have, like, I walked in, they have like a whole acupuncture setup. They do Chinese medicine and Western medicine. It's like this good mix, and they have like a holistic approach to the body. And I was like, this is what I need. I need a doctor who can like see my whole body with all of its conditions. And so when I come in and I have a problem, they understand that like this is related to fibro and IBS and all of these other things. So like we need to try to treat it with the whole picture instead of just like, separating out all of the systems like they don't interact, because that doesn't work for me. So I go in yesterday and I was really nervous because I've just had such a hard time finding doctors who care and treat me like a human being. And the doctor I met with was super nice and listened and like was really like helpful. I made a list of all of my medical history, what I've been diagnosed with and when, what medications I'm on, what surgeries I've had, and I ran them through a translator to translate them from English to German, and that was super helpful. So this doctor is like, we usually try to keep, and they have a GP and they have a pain specialist. She's like, we usually try to keep them separate, but since what it seems like is most of what your general health needs are related to pain management, I will be your GP for as long as that works out, and we can reevaluate as needed. No big deal. I was like, oh my god, thank you. So now I have a pain specialist who can be my GP for as long as that works out, and she'll rewrite my script for gabapentin. I'll circle back to her in 8 weeks for a general health appointment, and we'll go from there. And she wrote me a referral so I can try to get a psychiatrist who will take my insurance and possibly in at the Charité clinic. She was super helpful, and like I didn't have to ask for like the referrals or anything. She was just like, here is something that should help you with this leg of the problem that you're experiencing, and here is another thing to try for IBS, and we will just work together for as long as we can. So goal complete, I guess. However, last month, at the beginning of the month, I go in to get my meds filled, and my pharmacy doesn't have my dose in stock. They only have 5 milligrams instead of 10, and I'm like, sure, that's fine. I'll just take two. But they only gave me one box, and I should have had 2 boxes, but I didn't feel like trying to deal with getting another script from my doctor so I could get the other box, because it was just, it's a whole lot of bureaucracy, and I did not have the energy to navigate it. And I've been realizing that a lot of the circumstances and reasons that I needed anti-anxiety and antidepressants are gone now. And that's due to a combination of like moving to a place, Berlin, where like the quality of living is better. I'm not constantly scared that like I'm gonna be part of a mass murder when I go grocery shopping, because that doesn't really exist here. But also, and like, being financially stable because my spouse has a well paying job and rent is lower than it is in the Bay, and things are affordable, and I've been doing a lot of really good work myself this year. So, economically and existential outside circumstances wise, a lot of the existential dread is gone. And internally, I've been doing so much work in therapy, especially over this last year, where like I haven't been able to see my therapist as regularly. I've been paying out of pocket, and like all of my emotional support is in the US, which is 6 to 9 hours behind me. So when I'm having a panic attack, I'm the only person who can get myself through it in that moment, because everyone else is asleep. So I've been doing so much, like I've been doing so much internal work for the last like 14 years, but I've been doing so much more intentionally this year, because I've had to be because I am the only person who can be here for me. And I've made a lot of progress, like so much progress. So much progress that when my anti-anxiety medication dose last month was cut in half, I was able to manage Peridot having a bladder infection, my spouse getting what turned out to be COVID, and myself getting COVID. Okay. Like, I was stressed out, but I was able to get through it. I was able to calm myself down. When I had panic attacks, I was able to sit with myself and work through it and talk to all the parts that were scared and activated. I've been doing, my therapist does internal family systems, which is actually like when I was trying to work through stuff myself when I was 18 and until I actually started therapy. That was what I had, how I had been approaching things anyway, without like any of the like actual framework for it. I was just like, this seems like there's a tiny little version of me that's scared. So that's how I've been getting through my trauma, and it's been really really effective for me to just imagine like myself as an adult calm person sitting in a room with like these smaller child versions of me that haven't made it out yet, who still feel trapped. And so whenever I feel really really panicked, I realize that like this is tugging on something deeper than the current situation. And so I have this year and last year been taking that as an opportunity to really kind of sit down and be like, okay, what is it that I need right now in order to get back to okay, to make whatever like this root part is feel safer and better. And I've gotten to the point now where most of those parts, almost all of those parts, trust me when I come in, and so I'm able to work through things much faster. So I've been doing so much internal work that I feel like I'm at a place where I can lower my dose safely. Um, I feel like I'm at a place where like depression, the like terrible, I can't climb out of it existential level of depression is so much harder for me to get to now because of the combination of being on medication for so long and doing so much work in therapy. I've been able to like close what felt like an abyss in my brain, and now that's like maybe a pothole. Like it's still there, but it's something that I can manage, and I don't feel like I necessarily need to be on my antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication right now. I'm willing to try not being on it, I guess. So it kind of doesn't matter that I am still having trouble getting my psych meds refilled because I'm already at the place psychologically and emotionally and like economically stable wise that I can try to see if I still need them by going off of them, and I can trust myself that I can do the work to like keep my brain happy. And if it turns out that I do still need them, then I always have them and I can go back on. But that's where I'm at right now. That's like my big news of the year. The biggest goal I had was to find a doctor I can work with, and I did. So I'm really excited about that. As for the rest of this year, I have some plans. I'm going to be doing more painting time-lapse videos because those are really fun for me to make. Those will be going up soon, probably shortly after I post this. And the other things I want to do, I'm hoping sometime this year to get a museum pass and do some videos of going to the various museums because Berlin has a ton of museums, and I can get a pass for €30 and go to like as many as I can possibly go to in 3 days. So I want to do that sometime soon. And yeah, I'm not sure what else. I'm still working slowly on Minecraft videos. But yeah, this year I want to make more art. I'm planning on focusing on writing my memoir finally this year. And I don't know how much I'm going to talk about that on this channel, but we'll see. And otherwise, I'll just do updates when I have updates and when I do interesting shit. I hope that you have a really good 2023. My 2023 is starting off surprisingly well. I really hope that it works out for all of us. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.